I'm Karen Varga with CE Ag World Greenhouse Produce, an innovative brand that engages with the rapidly expanding global greenhouse produce industry through a variety of platforms. Our mission is to educate and connect greenhouse produce growers and industry allies to help them better understand and sustainably advance the global food industry. On this episode of CE Ag Talks, I'll be speaking with Chris Veillon, an expert marketer with 17 years of experience in the fresh produce industry. Over the years, Chris has worked for a variety of successful greenhouse produce operations, using his marketing know-how to extend the brand's reach and increase sales, and ultimately to increase product consumption. Chris, welcome to CE Ag Talks.
Great, thanks. Nice to see you, Karen.
Yeah, thanks for being here. So today we're going to talk a little bit about brand versus branding. So what exactly is the difference between them? Or if you want to just start off and talk about one.
Brand versus branding, it's a very interesting topic. When you talk about, is it brand versus brand? What's the difference between the two? There are many, many people out there in all levels of management who don't understand the difference and the impact of each of these words make. When people think about brand, ideally, it's something big or small. It can be complex or it can be very simple. And it can feel very slippery at first. When you think about brand and produce, if you think back 10, 12, maybe 15 years ago, there were really two or three main brands in produce: Dole, Del Monte, and Chiquita. And those were established multi-generational brands that have been in produce world for decades. And you fast forward to today, and you walk into your local Trader Joe's, HEB, Safeway, or even up here in Canada into Loblaws. There are literally hundreds of brands that have taken shape and are all vying for a share of plate. When you think of a brand, many think of, Coke, Pepsi, Frito-Lay in that regard. But in our world of the fresh and tasty and the OG natural of fresh greenhouse grown produce or produce in general, it's the grower marketer as being a brand. But when someone's developing a brand per se, it is so much more than just a label. And that what needs to go hand in hand in the branding process. When you look today, think of iconic brands. We mentioned Dole, Del Monte, and Chiquita as certainly brands that I've certainly admired for many, many years. They have diversified, they've expanded their product line and such. And the brand itself is you're building trust with the consumer. You're building trust within your community. The community being, in the B2B world and also in the B2C world. But the brand itself is what the company stands for and what the company does internally and externally to build a strong brand ethos. That would be everything from daily operations to marketing activities, sales, community-focused events. But ultimately, what does this mean to a retail partner that they're working with? I've been finding in the last decade that retail partners are looking so much more than just what a great product is coming to them. They're peeling back the layers to understand, tell me more about the company, tell me about the people who are driving that boat, that race car every day down the highway to increase consumption. And have seen many a time where, retailers have made a shift away from an existing supplier because of what a competitor a competing brand had been promoting to them, what they had been doing to increase their presence in the marketplace. We hear today of the significance of ESG and what that means to a business and growing and social responsibility and such. If I think of a good friend of mine, Kim Shakal and Madison Hopper and Jenny Coleman from Equifruit, who are the hashtag banana badasses, and what they're doing to build brand. Jenny and Kim went and spoke at Harvard last year to talk about how they're building a brand in produce. And their ultimate goal is to, make sure, farmers get paid, and they built an amazing campaign, but a very strong multinational brand that stands for something. It stands for equality and social responsibility and such. If you look more closer to home, for example, in the greenhouse world, there are a multitude of competitors out there who are vying for, a share of plate. And many to this day continue to struggle on building brand. Many teams that I've managed over the last 17 years now is that you've really got to go beyond the package to explain to the consumer the value of your brand and what you do. So yes, the marketing groups ultimately exist because of sales. Without sales, marketing doesn't exist. So you have to be kind of feeding that beast with actions and initiatives to help build brand. So you are relevant. And without relevancy, you're just another pig with lipstick, so to speak. So all the activities that you're going to deploy in kind of this omni-channel strategy of what feeds into branding. And that would be, what are the tactics you're going to develop that brand? So, I've really been lucky to have worked with some great people. I never walked into the room thinking I was the smartest person there. I was walked in thinking, how am I going to layer, my glass half full approach to build a better brand in our branding initiative. So that's PR specialists, videographers, social media experts, designers, digital media, content creators, special events, all these activities together that create these initiatives to build branding activities. So, when you think of how strong a brand is in the marketplace, there is, product brand versus, word of mouth marketing, for example. Another topic we kind of touched on a little bit in a previous conversation is that you're all out there marketing to a customer or a consumer. So those various initiatives that you deploy are going to help build your brand through your branding initiatives. So it's kind of like they go hand in hand. And you and I spoke last week about this very topic, and I made a post on LinkedIn talking about Lindsay Peterson's book, Building an Ironclad Brand. Lindsay had been a guest speaker at Brandstorm for United Fresh, I think back in 2021, right in the middle of COVID. And I love the book so much. I bought it for my entire team and said, here's a phenomenal read you've got to read to understand about what it is about how you build an ironclad brand, because it's so much more than just putting a label on pack. And I think as you see today in the market space, I call it an SOS, a sea of sameness. Some people will chuckle when they hear me say that because I've said it for so long. But if you don't navigate to smooth water, you're not going to be relevant to the conversation. So all the activities that you're going to do ultimately are branding initiatives to support the brand.
Okay, so it's really more than just slapping a product on the shelf and hoping that they're gonna know who you are and for some reason decide that your product is superior. It's really about building that up so that when they see you, they recognize you and they want to be a part of your brand.
Absolutely. And I think if you look, in the CPG world, the consumer packaged goods world, there are many, many brands and companies that have significantly different, deeper pockets than those who work in fresh produce. There, one that comes right to mind is Yeti, a great, great brand. They're not marketing products; they're marketing a lifestyle. People say use same adage as Apple. They're not buying technology; you're buying a lifestyle. But even, for example, another one example, Red Bull, an energy drink per se, they are never ever selling a product. They are selling that lifestyle, and it's that experiential part of the business and the opportunity that's there. And if you look at produce, I'm fortunate enough to work for a brand where everything we did was lifestyle based. Is that we had to be relevant as part of the conversation, so people knew that your product was part of that could be a part of their lifestyle. And it's so much more than others that just, like I said, slap a label on a product and ship it off to the customer and hope that it sells. But with the advent of technology and how consumers use their phones and such, I've now spent a lot more time in grocery stores and watching consumers and such. It's amazing to see how people are using their devices to immediately search a product. Or even, I heavily hadn't used Google search that much, but I actually picked up a product this past weekend and used the picture finder in Google and, to tell me more about the product. And it took me to a wide range of content that helped, bring me up to speed on what, the value of what this product was. But, when you look today at fresh produce and our challenges and cost increases and so forth, and consumers being that much more savvy and aware of how product is being used to avoid waste, you've got to make sure that you're serving the right content to them so they know how to use that product, whether it be asparagus or cherries or tomatoes, cucumbers, or even kiwis for that matter. It really is part of the tactic of building the brand and branding to support all the initiatives that take place to help increase consumption.
So what, taking all of this into account, what advice do you have for greenhouse produce growers who are saying, my brand could use a boost?
It's a slippery slope as we start our conversation. Is that it's all about relevance, and certainly in a marketplace where heavily commodity focused, the niche part of marketing continues to gain traction with proprietary varieties and bricks levels that are through the roof, or even products that had traditionally had been grown in fields and now grown in greenhouses. Is that the value of the brand is only as much as what you put behind that itself per se. And probably is not the best way to explain it. The better way to explain it was be looking at the way to evolve a product's presence, that value proposition. As a grower marketer, when you come up to the retailer with an opportunity to pitch, what's your value in comparison to the products already sitting there? We all know that retailers are very savvy and have their pulse on the industry and they understand who's doing what. But someone really has to fall down hard in order to have themselves removed from the table. So as you approach that table and you're bringing something unique to that discussion, you know, the brand building part is so much more than just the package. It's that everything you're supporting behind that. And it all starts where it came to life. So in your greenhouse and such, where are you properly documenting that? How you explain that clearly and effectively to that retail partner? Invite that retail partner into your facility, giving them the full experience of what it means to bring that product to life. And yes, marketers can create, amazing presentations and such, but truly having an intrinsic connection to that product and process and understanding the true value of that. It's all about the story, how you're telling the story from start to finish. And, marketers are very creative, but also understand the opportunity at hand to create and connect the dots. You've got to really plan the work the plan to make sure that you're able to explain from A to Z how that product came to life and what value does it provide to their customers down the road.
Great. Well, Chris, thanks so much for talking to us about brand versus branding and, connecting better with consumers and retailers.
But I appreciate the opportunity. It was a great conversation, Karen.